Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert Lalonde from Kaizen Financial. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while at my website, click on the podcast page to check out our past shows and also to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. All right. Today's conversation is about retirement planning, but this time for Generation X, a group that may often feel a little caught in the middle. Now, this is my generation, and this generation is approaching retirement age, still working, still earning, and doing many of the right things when it comes to saving. But if you ever said to yourself, man, I'm contributing, I'm investing, but I want to be more confident I'm not missing something, then this episode is for you. Now, during our conversation today, we'll be referencing a U.S. News and World Report article that's headlined, "Here's What Generation X Should Know About Retirement." But before we begin, joining me today is my co-host, Tony Shore, who plays the role of the everyday listener and isn't afraid to stop me when I drift into financial jargons. Hey, Tony, how we doing, buddy?
Doing good, Albert. Great to be here. You got that right. What an intro there. I have been so crazy busy and cold,
Yes.
as have you, right?
Yes.
It's January in the Midwest. What are we gonna do, right? I mean, in the middle of the state.
You got it. Makes us
Yeah.
tougher, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, they
You
say.
got it.
So,
You
I
got
don't
it.
know why we live here sometimes when it gets this cold, but Albert, I've been good. How about you? What have you been up to?
Same thing, busy, a whole new year, just getting everything ready to go for 2026. And yes, dealing with all this early and a very, very cold winter this year. We were due. So, I've already done quite a bit of shoveling probably in the last few weeks here. So I'm ready
Yeah.
to be done with that.
Oh, so ready. But yeah, I mean, I'm up here in Minnesota, and we're probably not gonna be it snows in April here, so we got a few more months yet. Um, but you're right, and, I know, that this topic today, it's funny, you and we talk about retirement strategies for Gen X is what you wanted to talk about today,
Mhm.
but really a lot of these can apply to everyone out there who's
Oh,
thinking about
yes.
retirement or if you're already in retirement.
Right.
But you and I are both Gen X. I mean, you're on the younger side, of course. I'm on the older side, but yeah, we're both Gen X. That's for sure.
Yes.
Um, so where do you want to begin?
Well, when we talk about Generation X, I mean, we're generally referring to people, for those that don't know out there, born between about 1965 and 1980. And that group actually covers a wide range of financial situations. Now, some are high earners, some are business owners, some are in the middle of their peak earning years, and then others are still trying to make up ground after setbacks along the way.
Yeah, so very different stories financially and quite a wide age range there, but they're all headed toward the same phase of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And what's interesting is that regardless of the income or net worth, we tend to see the same three retirement challenges show up again and again for Generation X.
Yeah. And what are those challenges?
Ah, risk, fees, and taxes.
Ah, the big three:
You
risk,
got it.
fees, and taxes. And that sounds straightforward, but I'm guessing that's a little deceptive.
It is. Uh, these aren't always obvious problems. Market risk can feel manageable until there's a downturn. Investment fees can be, let's say, internal and quietly add up over time. And then taxes, that's the one that often don't get serious attention until someone is already retired. And then options are more limited because of that.
So even though people arrive at retirement from very different places, they can run into the same trouble spots, can't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And over the rest of today's show, we're going to walk through each of these areas and then talk about what Gen X should consider paying attention to now while there's still time to plan. And one of the biggest shifts that people face as they move towards retirement is the role of a budget. And honestly, a workable budget becomes more important in retirement than it ever was during your entire working years.
Really? I mean, that probably sounds a little backwards or to some people think it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, it does. But here's what we see in real life. Many Gen Xers have been earning a paycheck consistently for decades. Money comes in, bills get paid, savings happen in the background, and spending never really has to be examined closely.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when that paycheck stops, there's suddenly a spotlight on where the money is actually going, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, financial planners often say this is one of the biggest struggles they see with the Gen X clients. People simply don't have a clear picture of what they spend month to month because they never had to.
Hmm. And that can be uncomfortable once retirement gets closer, can it?
Oh, very much so. And preparing for retirement isn't just about account balances. It's also about preparing for some hard decisions. And a big part of that starts with taking an honest look at spending.
Hmm. Well, because the lifestyle you want to have, that you do have while you're working, might not automatically translate into retirement.
That's exactly right. And then some people discover that maintaining their current lifestyle in retirement may not be realistic without some adjustments. And those adjustments are easier to make when you have time and not when retirement is already underway.
I bet housing plays a big role in this conversation too, doesn't it?
It does. In fact, for a long time, people assumed downsizing or moving in retirement would be an easy lever to pull. But with today's home prices and mortgage rates, that option may not be as practical as it once was.
Yeah. My wife and I are actually dealing with that right now. We've been wanting to downsize and move, but wow. I know for some people, staying put is the only real option right now.
It is. And that makes understanding cash flow even more critical. Knowing what's essential, what's flexible, and then what trade offs might be required gives people control instead of surprises.
I think that's really the theme here, Albert, and that's clarity before commitment.
Yes. And then one important milestones too for Generation X is that you get to that age 59 and a half, because that's when retirement accounts become accessible without early withdrawal penalties. And then with traditional, let's say, pensions becoming rare, most Gen Xers have been responsible for building their own retirement savings, what I call mailbox money. And for
Mhm.
many, workplace plans like 401ks and individual retirement accounts will serve as their primary income source in retirement compared to, all of our baby boomers where most of them had pensions.
Yeah. Well, and so, reaching, 59 and a half, I imagine for some that can feel like a green light.
Oh, big time. In fact, what we do is we send a happy 59 and a half birthday cards to all of our clients when they hit that age, because it is something that's big as a milestone. And it allows you basically to touch the assets at that time. But most people, when they withdraw from 401ks and IRAs, they're allowed at that age to start taking it, but deciding when to start taking money out and how much to withdraw is where those things get complicated all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, it can get complicated, and because it's not as simple as just looking at the account balance.
Right. In fact, an account value doesn't automatically translate into monthly income. It's probably one of the biggest things that I hear from that generation here, Tony. They are used to spending the way they spend, not having a budget, doing well. They came to a generation that used to being living, decently. And then when they get into retirement, they realize, whoa, I don't make the same income and my lifestyle needs to adjust. And that's the hardest thing for most people at retirement time. And so for us, we look at that with a full-fledged financial plan ahead of time so we know what they have to adjust to. And that's our catalyst is that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to look at that, and, I think, mistakes can happen, right?
Yep.
I think that's a big thing you gotta watch out for.
Well, and the thing is that taking too much, let's say too early, can put long-term retirement security at risk. If withdrawals are, let's say, aren't coordinated with taxes, market conditions, and even longevity expectations, well, then there's a chance of running out of money later in retirement.
Hmm. Well, and that's the opposite of what retirement savings are supposed to do.
Well, yes. And that's why having a withdrawal strategy can matter. The goal isn't just access, it's sustainability, understanding how much you can reasonably take, how often, and then from which accounts make a meaningful difference over time.
That's something I think most people, it's not something most people have experience with, I should say, right?
Absolutely right. In fact, that generation alone that's probably one of the biggest comments that they say to me is, I just don't understand. How do I take all these assets that I save and turn it into income? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the things most don't. And that's when working with an experienced financial service professional can be helpful, not to guess, but to make a model in different scenarios and build a plan that actually aligns income needs with long-term goals.
Yeah. So before we keep going with this conversation, and it is a good one, Albert, let our listeners out there know how they can get a hold of you and your team
Yeah.
there if they have any questions or want to get an opinion on where they're at or
Mhm.
get an initial plan in place.
Yes. Folks, if you want to learn where you're at or what your expense budget should look like or how to utilize your assets at age 59 and a half, give us a call, 586-752-7008, or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen.
All right. Well, and now let's get back into what Gen X needs to know about their impending retirement.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So not everyone is looking to tap into retirement accounts at age 59 and a half. In fact, many people in Generation X are still very much in saving mode as they head into their early 60s. And that article adds that thanks to changes introduced under the Secure 2.0 Act, there's actually unique opportunities during that window period, specifically for people between 60 and 63.
Oh, wow. That's where the phrase super catch up comes from, right? Or
Yes,
is talking
yes.
about. Yeah.
For sure. For a long time, workers 50 and older have been allowed to make additional tax advantage contributions to employer sponsored retirement plans like 401ks. And those are the standard catch up contributions many people are familiar with.
Yeah. But this takes it a step further, and that's why they call it the super catch up.
Bingo. And then starting this year in 2026, workers age 50 and older can now contribute an additional $8,000 on top of the regular annual limit of $24,500. However, for those who are 60, 61, 62, or 63, the government is going to allow an even higher amount, or what's referred to as a super catch-up contributions, up to $11,250.
Hmm. So for a short window there, people can put away even more.
Yep. But there are some important caveats. First, not all retirement plans are required to allow super catch-up contributions, so it's critical to check what your specific workplace plan actually permits.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. And there's also a tax wrinkle here, though, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Now, let's say if someone earned more than $150,000 in wages during the prior year, their catch-up contributions must be made to a Roth account. That means those contributions won't be tax deductible today.
But the trade off is on the back end.
Oh, yes, correct. Now, while there's no upfront tax deduction, those Roth contributions can actually potentially be withdrawn tax-free in retirement, assuming the rules are followed. And for some people, that can be a meaningful advantage, especially when they're trying to manage future tax exposure.
So it isn't automatically good or bad. It depends on the situation.
That is the key point. And these higher contribution limits create opportunity, but only if they're coordinated with income, tax planning, and retirement timing. And it's worth noting that there's also a higher catch up contribution limit for people between 60 and 63 who participate in simple IRAs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, which I think it's so important that makes it a short but important planning window, right?
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
it's really important.
Absolutely. And this is one of those moments when understanding the rules ahead of time actually makes a big difference. And missing the opportunity, or let's say using it without a strategy, can both have long-term consequences. Moving on now. Let's also remember that there's a long-standing assumption that once people retire, their taxes automatically go down. Less income means less tax, or at least that's how conventional wisdom frames it.
Yeah, a lot of people think, yeah, once I hit retirement, my taxes are going to weigh down, or I won't be paying taxes because I'm not working. But that assumption doesn't always hold up, especially for Gen X.
Correct. In fact, many Gen X retirees may actually face higher taxes than they expect, and in some cases, higher than what they paid while working.
So what's driving this?
A big part of it comes down to where the retirement savings are held. For decades, most Gen X workers were encouraged to save in traditional tax deferred accounts like 401ks and IRAs.
Yeah, and that makes sense on the surface because you get an immediate tax deduction when you contribute.
Yeah,
Comes off your earned income, so you don't pay taxes
you
now on
do.
it.
But the trade off is on the back end there, Tony. Every dollar withdrawn from those accounts in retirement is generally taxed as ordinary income. And if most of your savings are in a tax deferred account, that can create a significant tax bill later.
Yeah. So all this to say, what I think the point you're making here is that risk isn't just market risk, it's also tax risk.
That's, in fact, an important distinction, Tony. No one knows what future tax rates will be or how tax laws may change over time. Yet, when all of your retirement income comes from tax deferred sources, well, you're essentially committing to paying whatever rates exist down the road.
Yeah. Which means the IRS gets a say in your retirement income. Yeah, it's
In a
like
way,
those
yes.
retirement accounts are joint accounts with Uncle Sam, and
You
he
got
sets the rate he
it.
gets. Yeah.
Pretty much. And that uncertainty is what makes tax planning such a big issue for Gen X. Now, the goal isn't to avoid taxes entirely, it's to avoid being surprised by them.
Okay. So what are some of the ways our listeners out there can address that?
Oh, one strategy discussed in the article is shifting future savings towards the Roth style account when appropriate. And then Roth contributions don't provide a tax deduction today, but qualify withdrawals in retirement later. Wow, they're all can be tax free.
Yeah. And that means you're trading today's deduction for tomorrow's certainty.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to think about it. And think about this. When's the best way to pay taxes? While you're making good income, probably top of your career, than being on a fixed income retired,
Yeah.
And in addition, some people choose to convert a portion of existing traditional retirement savings and convert it into Roth accounts over time as well. So paying taxes now, again, exchange for a tax-free income later.
Yep. And that sounds very appealing and can be very beneficial, but it's also complex, right?
Yes. Yes, it can be. Roth conversions aren't a one size fits all solution, and timing actually matters. So, income levels, tax brackets, Medicare considerations got to be considered there, and long term goals all factor into whether that approach actually makes sense.
Yeah. And the takeaway isn't stop using traditional accounts, but rather be intentional or maybe
Yes.
do both, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't just throw money to the and save it. Be intentional with that savings. The key is diversification, not just of investments, but of tax treatments as well. Having a mix of taxable, tax deferred, and tax-free accounts can give retirees far more flexibility and control.
Yeah. And that flexibility can make retirement feel a lot more predictable.
Yes. Now, another milestone that's coming up quickly for Generation X is Social Security eligibility. For some members of this generation, that first window opens very soon. In fact, at age 60, unmarried widows and widowers may be eligible for survivor benefits. But for most Gen Xers, age 62 is going to be the earliest point at which they can begin receiving monthly Social Security retirement benefits.
Yeah, I know 62 is a really popular age to claim, isn't it?
It is, but it's also one of the most misunderstood decisions in retirement planning. Claiming Social Security early comes with trade offs that last for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So what kind of trade-offs are we talking about here?
Well, let's say starting benefits at 62 can permanently reduce your monthly payments by as much as a third compared to waiting till full retirement age. And if you're still working and earning above certain income thresholds, your benefit can be temporarily reduced even further.
Yeah. Well, so timing really matters.
For sure. And for Gen Xers born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67. So that's when you're entitled to your full benefit without any reductions.
Right. And waiting longer can increase that benefit, right?
Yes. And if someone delays claiming beyond full retirement, their benefit increase is actually about 8% per year up until age 70.
Wow.
After that, there's currently really no financial advantage to waiting after age 70.
Okay. So the decision isn't just when can I claim, but when should I claim?
You got it. Now, Social Security should be coordinated with other income sources, taxes, health considerations, and longevity expectations. Once you start, the decision isn't difficult to undo, which makes planning ahead especially important. Now, another area that often catches people off guard is healthcare and retirement, specifically Medicare. So, even though full retirement age is 67, Medicare eligibility begins at 65. And while Medicare provides broad coverage, it doesn't cover everything.
Yeah, that's true. And most notably, it doesn't cover long-term care, which is very pricey.
It is. And Medicare typically includes deductibles, co-pays, and co-insurance. And there are important services it doesn't cover at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, again, long-term care. And I think that surprises people.
It
Long-term
is.
care is
That's a
huge.
big one.
Yeah.
And Medicare does not pay for ongoing long-term care costs like assisted living, memory care, or even nursing home care. Now, those expenses must be covered through personal savings or separate coverage, such as long-term care insurance or life insurance policies with long-term care riders.
Hmm. So healthcare planning isn't just about doctor visits.
No, not at all. In fact, it's about protecting against costs that can disrupt your retirement plan if they're not anticipated for your health.
Yeah, and there's also an opportunity here with HSAs or health savings accounts, correct?
Definitely. Yeah. Workers who have access to a qualified, high deductible health plan may be eligible to contribute to a health savings account or HSA. Now, these accounts offer a unique combination of tax benefits.
How so?
Well, contributions may be tax deductible. The money can grow tax free, and withdrawals used for qualified healthcare expenses are also tax free. So, unlike flexible spending accounts, HSA balances roll over year to year.
So you get a triple tax benefit. That's
Yes.
huge. It goes in tax free, it grows tax free, it comes out tax free. So I would
Mhm.
imagine that could be a very powerful tool if you put money in there and left it in there to help cover retirement health costs once you are retired.
Yes, and especially for Gen Xers who still have time to fund them strategically. And when it
Yeah.
comes to investing, Generation X, well, they're a bit unique. This is a group that largely built their wealth through the stock market.
So there's a lot of confidence there.
There is. And confidence isn't a bad thing. Staying invested can make sense. The challenge is making sure the strategy evolves as retirement approaches.
Yeah, and because the risk changes, right?
Correct. In fact, the years just before and just after retirement are especially sensitive to market downturns. You don't know when those down years will happen, but their impact can be magnified if withdrawals are happening at that same time.
Okay. So, what does doing it right look like?
Hmm. Well, it often means diversification beyond pure growth. Some people choose to move a portion of their savings to, let's say, more stable assets with things like CDs, treasuries, or certain annuity structures to help create what's sometimes called a volatility buffer.
Okay. So during bad market years, you're not forced to sell investments at a loss, basically.
Exactly, bullseye. In fact, having non market based assets available for income can help retirees avoid locking in losses during downturns.
Hmm. And I imagine fees matter here too, as
Oh,
well.
yes, they matter a lot all the time. And even small differences in fees can have a meaningful long term impact. So, for example, a 1% annual fee, let's say on a $100,000 portfolio, can reduce its value by nearly $30,000 over 20 years compared to a lower cost alternative.
Hmm. Wow. And so it's not just about returns, it's about efficiency.
That's a good way to put it, Tony. In fact, reviewing investment costs is one of the simplest ways to actually help improve outcomes without taking on more risk.
Yeah. And finally, as Generation X, I think you're right. I think that's good. You've got to review those costs and not take on those risks.
And finally, as Generation X does move closer to retirement, legacy planning deserves renewed attention too. Many people created wills or estate documents years ago, but those plans often haven't kept pace with life changes.
Yeah. Well, and there are many, and new marriages, new children, grandchildren, new assets,
Oh, yeah.
someone passing away, divorce,
hmm
all of these major life changes can affect things.
Yeah. And remember, retirement is a natural checkpoint to revisit whether your plans still reflect your wishes.
Yeah, and it's not just about the will itself, is it?
Correct. Beneficiary designations on retirement accounts, life insurance policies, and transfer on death accounts often override what's written in the will anyway. So making sure those are up to date is really critical.
Yeah, it's huge because that's how you make sure things go where you intend. They don't cause disharmony in the family, and they
Yep.
help your loved ones get what you intend them to get and quickly and without hassle. Yeah.
And folks, remember, legacy planning isn't about complexity. I know a lot of you guys think, oh, it's so complicated and I have to take all the time. No, think about it this way: putting a legacy plan together brings clarity. Now you know what you're doing with everything, and taking care of it now can save loved ones confusion and stress much later.
All right. Well, hey, this has been an excellent show, Albert. We're out of time. Is there anything else you want to add for our listeners before we go?
Folks, if you're really concerned, Generation X out there and any other generation, if you're concerned about your retirement, your savings, your budget, making sure you have enough what we call mailbox money, then please go to my website, www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. You can give us a call at 586-752-7008 and set up a meeting with us, and we will help put a plan together so you can see your numbers.
That's huge. Well, thank you, Albert. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Own Your Retirement with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Take care, everybody.